Hi, so this is a video that I'm making because I feel like I have to. Um, so this is me practicing speaking my truth and telling my story, and basically, I'm just gonna be talking to my mother and telling her how I feel. Okay? Okay. Hi, Mom. It's your daughter that you love and that you seem to hate a lot of the times. I know that you don't hate me, but growing up, I felt like you hated me. I don't know if it's because my dad, or I look a lot like my dad who cheated on you and betrayed you, but I am not my dad. I am a gift from God. I am not a burden. I should not be punished for my dad's mistakes, and I should not be punished for your mistake. And I am not a mistake. I am a gift from God. I am a human being that came from you and your womb, but I am created by God. So growing up, I felt like I had no voice because I was often getting yelled at by you, and I submitted to that. And I silenced myself to please you and to make you happy because you were always on edge. So every little thing I did, I felt like I was walking on eggshells, and I felt like I couldn't speak up for myself because there was such a spirit of intimidation, and there was emotional manipulation, and whether that was through silent treatment, you not talking to me for 1 or 2 days because I made you mad, because apparently I make you mad all the time. I'm the source of your anger, which I think is a lot to say about someone. But you keep saying that I have hypothyroid, but I don't have it anymore because God healed me. And the reason for even having hypothyroid was because I wasn't speaking up for myself. And I felt humiliated. And I let you speak words of death over me. But no more. Mom, I love you. I do. But you're the biggest source of my pain in my life. Only recently I've started to really voice my opinions with people, and I'm realizing that I've not really done that with you, Mom. I've talked about you to other people, yeah, and I'm sorry to say that. I played the victim, and I'm sorry that I did that. I allowed your words to affect me, and I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to speak up for myself no matter how hard it is. I'm going to say how I feel no matter how hard it is. And I was just on the flight, and there was 2 instances where 2 women were yelling at me. I had walked around the business class, and this Asian American stewardess basically said, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to be here." And I know that she was just following the rules, but the way that she said it made me feel unworthy and dismissed. And another previous instance was there was a Caucasian stewardess, and she yelled, "You have to go back to your seat. What are you doing?" And she yelled at me, but for some reason did not yell at the Korean businessman that was also standing in line for the bathroom. And so my heart felt very tense, and I knew that there was something wrong. And I felt very claustrophobic. I felt like I was suffocating. And so I heard God say, like, you got to pray for them. You got to tell them your truth, you know? And I just prayed, God, like, give me the words to speak. And I went to the back. And there were like 5 or 6 stewardesses, flight attendants. And they were all like mother age. They were like over 50, most of them. And some were 70, even 60. Well, probably not 70. But they all sat there talking, and I said, hey, I need to address something. Look, this is what happened. And then I started crying. And the Asian American stewardess, like, she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, that's not what I meant. And because of 9/11, I have to, be aware. And I said, well, I think that it could have been less harsh because I am a customer. But like, I would, like, a lot of times if especially an Asian woman or like an older woman, like whether they were white or Asian or whatever, but if they were like my mother's age and they would come at me with that kind of spirit of intimidation, I would feel like I wanted to submit, or I would want to like people please in that moment. But I'm a prophet. I can't do that. I'm a child of God. I can't do that. Mom, I love you, yes, but I'm realizing that there were a lot of patterns in my life that followed me because I felt like a burden on you and on the world, like on friends, like, so instead of being in intimate relationships, I ran because I didn't know how to speak my truth, because I felt like it was easier to avoid close relationships than to be judged or rejected or accused of by you or other people. And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to play the victim, and I don't want to silence myself anymore. I want to speak my truth, and my voice deserves to be heard, and I deserve to take up space. I deserve to be here. I am a gift from God. I'm not a burden. You can feel pressured by me being here, but that's on you. That's you feeling pressure. I never gave you that pressure. That's you taking on pressure. That's you worrying. That's on you. That's not on me. It is not my fault that you feel pressured. And it is also not your fault that I feel accused, even if you're yelling at me, because I know that you're stressed. I know that you're worried. We all have our worries. None of us are perfect, right? But it's your job to cast all your cares on God and not on me. I'm not a punching bag, and I'm not a verbal garbage can. I'm a child of God. And I'm going to keep speaking my truth and not silencing myself anymore in this world. I deserve a place in this world. And I deserve, as a child, to be here. And yes, Mom, I'm going to move out. But I'm very tired. I've just been overseas for 1.5 years. I'm exhausted. And I don't feel tired when there are safe people around me. But I feel tired when I'm at your house and you're telling me that I don't deserve to be here, that I'm a burden. And in God's timing, I will go where I need to and I will do what I need to, but I don't need to feel pressured to do something that I don't feel led to in this moment, just so that I can, quote unquote, disappear in your eyes and not be a visual pressure on you. You need to face the fact that you gave birth to me. You need to accept that. Okay, I'm 31 years old. I've been living on this earth for 31 years old, and I'm not a burden. I'm a gift from God. I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. But we do have relationship. We are family. We have the same genes. But of course, it does not mean that I am responsible for you. You're not responsible for me. If you do anything, you do out of love. If I do anything, I do out of love, not out of obligation. I often kept a lot of things in my heart because I didn't know how to say it, because it's just like your tactic was just to yell, and your tactic was just to accuse. And so I lived feeling condemned like most of my life, and God had to take me back here so that I could understand that I am the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus, and I am not under condemnation. And it has taken me so long, because even when I am around women that have a certain age, I am fearful for some reason. And I had to face that over and over and over and over again. Like recently, I had to go confront a mother-aged woman, or she was also a mother. But I told her, I was like, I don't know why, but when I worked for you, I felt like I really wanted to please you. She was happy to hear that, but I don't think I actually had like a good kind of fear of her. It was more like I didn't want to get in trouble. And so, guys, I feel like there's a pattern in your life that comes from your parents. The way you deal with authority, the way that you don't speak up for yourself, the way that you feel like a burden, or you feel like somehow like you don't have a voice. A lot of times that comes from the way that you were brought up, or hey, if you did something that you would get yelled at, or and so you start living these patterns in relationships or in your friendships, and you feel like you can't share like the truth with them. And I really felt that because of how I grew up with my mother and how I am with her and how I've been with her, that I really started to attract women and friends that were not safe. And I didn't feel safe in those relationships, and I felt like if I spoke up for myself, that I would get judged or yelled at, which was often true. And then now I'm starting to really attract women who are safe, and I'm wondering, like, it's like the same concept as, they talk about, law of attraction and all that stuff, but it's like you manifest what you are, or you attract what you are. Why is that? Okay, if you feel like you are a burden, you're not gonna want to take up space. You're not gonna want to voice your opinion, or you're gonna hide, right? Because you feel like, okay, if I'm around here, then like, you're not gonna act the same, you know. But if you feel like you're talented, you're a gift from God, and that, you know, you deserve to take up space, then you're gonna shine, right? You're gonna be a light, and you're gonna put yourself on stage, and you're not gonna be thinking, oh my God, I don't deserve to be here. So the more I thought about it, the more I realized that a part of why I've really, like, that spirit of intimidation and fear really came against me to make me feel like, you know, I don't deserve to be here and I don't deserve to be on stage. But I had to start repeating to myself, like, no, I deserve to be here. I deserve to take up space. I am important. I am important. I'm a gift from God. I'm a gift from God. And I know friends that have really struggled with that as well. But I challenge you, like, to start speaking up for yourself, even when it's scary, even when you feel like, okay, that person is, well, they're a lot older, or they're wearing business wear, or, oh my God, I'm wearing PJs, which I was last night on the plane. And it's like, okay, I might not look like important because I'm wearing sweats, but I'm a human being. I'm called by God, and I am accepted by God, and I'm loved by God. And for my heart, I'm going to keep speaking up. And again, talking to my mom. So, like, when I left for overseas, like, she got really mad because I said, Mom, you need to stop nagging. You need to focus on Jesus and not on your worries, because it's stressing me out, like, you nagging. And she got really mad, and she just drove off without saying bye, without hugging me, anything. And I felt really, like, hurt by it, because it felt like, you know what, let me just get rid of you. Like, I don't need to, you know, see you around here or something. So the next day I called her, and I'm like, Mom, it really hurt. And I started crying. And she's like, well, you're the one that made me mad. But then I was like, you know what? At least I said what I felt. And that's been an issue my whole life, that I didn't say how I felt because I didn't think it was important. And I felt that, I remember last year when I went overseas to minister for like a year and a half, I basically didn't call her for a few months because I knew what she was going to say. I'm like, well, what's the point of saying it if she's just gonna say, don't do that anymore, don't, you know, what are you doing with your life, just get a normal job. I knew, like, okay, well, if she's gonna yell at me, what's the point of even talking to her, you know? And but then I didn't realize, like, how much that affected me, and how much that I felt unheard, I felt dismissed, I felt unimportant, I felt accused of in our relationship. And I've started to just really voice my opinion. Like, of course she's not always gonna react well, she's gonna yell, she's gonna blame me, she's gonna, you know, but I'm owning my truth and my feelings, and it doesn't matter how she feels about it, because it's affected me, like, my whole freaking life, and it's affected my relationships, it's affected how I deal with people, it's affected so much. And because of the fact that I'm a prophet too, like, God has really pushed me to speak up. Like, in a year and a half, like, the things that I've had to do, I mean, even like 2011, my first job ever, like a 9 to 5. Well, no, I had jobs way before that. But there was this one boss, and she would yell at me. She was also Asian American. She yelled at me. She's like, we're not in college anymore. Like, take your job serious, blah blah. And then I had made a mistake, and so, well, also at that time I had just broken up with my ex, so I was really upset. So for the next few days I just complained about it. I didn't say anything. She acted like nothing happened, and basically I felt God was like, you need to confront her. So I went to the bathroom and I started praying. I was so nervous. And then I pulled her aside. I was like, hey, can I talk to you? And I pulled her to a room, and I did like the sandwich method. I basically said, look, I appreciate what you're doing, how you're teaching me and training me, but I don't appreciate that the way you talk to me. I felt very demeaned, and I actually just broke up with my ex, so I'm very upset. And I started crying, but I said, hey, I really appreciate and I want to learn from you. But after that, she was like, oh, I'm actually really impressed that you were able to talk to a superior. And other things that I've had to do. Well, when I was in, I think it was New Zealand. Oh no, I remember like even in San Francisco, when I was like ministering there, like I was staying, I think what it was is like God would often bring me to hotels and stuff where I had to speak up. So there was like so much noise. Like it was like a really cheap hotel. And at night, literally, like I could hear everything from every freaking room, man. Like and I had to complain, and then repeatedly, like not just 2 times, probably 4 or 5 times. And there were people like watching sports games like really loud, or watching TV really loud, and I had to knock on people's doors. You know how most people are like, oh my god, I'd be so afraid to do that. Well, I've had to do that over and over and over and over and over again, and I realized it's so that I would not be scared of people, or I wouldn't be scared of men. Like just in Korea, like I remember like hearing like a fear of men. Like, so this is what happened. I went to train, and this guy starts yelling at a staff, and he's yelling, right? And I just hear like move, right? So I move, right? I leave, and then I hear God say like go back and pray for him, and I'm like, dude, that mother effer, right, was about to smack that staff lady, and he seemed like he was a violent man. And like I was like, I'm not about to go in there and get smacked by a stranger, a violent man. No, I'm not gonna do that. And I went back, and he was gone. But in that moment, I hear fear of men, and I realized that God had been all throughout my ministry, and when he was training me, like he's really just trained me to not have a fear of people, or a fear of what they think. Like there's, for example, okay, like one of the first things I really had to do was come out of hiding, tell my story, write my story, and then he would tell me like who to ask for donations, and he would tell me like to contact them, right? And then some people would like seriously blow up at me. Like it was like a really weird thing. Like they were really annoyed by it for some reason. Instead of just saying no, like they would not reply for a long time and then blow up on me, like or they would say, oh, I wish that you would have just prayed to let God lead me to give. And guys, listen. God told me it's because you probably won't listen to him if he told you. No offense, but that's what he told me. He said, the reason I'm having you ask is because they don't listen to me. So, there's probably moments where you're like, oh, I feel like I want to give, and then you like forget about it. Well, that's probably God telling you, hey, give. But then, and it's not like a place of condemnation or anything. Like, it's not a big deal, because you should be led by love and grace and from a heart to give, not out of obligation. But so things that I had to do on the road, like, you don't even know all the things I had to do. But I've had to go up to strangers and ask them, hey, God gave me a word, can I pray for you? And I've had people say, no, you pray for yourself. You know, I don't need prayer. I've had people like say, no, I'm not religious. And I'm like, I'm not religious either. I've had to ask strangers for donations. Hey, I'm a missionary, and would you like to give a donation? God has told me to go up to strangers and ask them to buy me a meal. And then I've had to prophesy over these people who actually needed a word, who actually needed healing. I remember one lady, I was like, can you buy me a drink? And as we started talking, it turned out she was also Christian, and she had just gone through a miscarriage. Another lady, she was a flight attendant. It turned out she just watched a client or customer of hers die on an airplane. Just a lot of instances where that's kind of how God led. You know, Elijah had to ask a widow for food, and it turned out that he was going to heal and resurrect her son. And so the miracle was there, but she had to act in faith and give him food. So I've had to do things that most, especially of my ethnicity, most Asian Americans would not ever have to do in their lifetime. But it's just really helped me to, first of all, not feel like a burden. First of all, feel worthy. First of all, know that I'm worthy. And first of all, know that no circumstance is a reflection of my worth. And because there's so much shame attached to like asking for help, and I never knew how to ask for help because I thought, well, because I lived in the belief that I'm a burden. So in order to not be a burden on other people, I started working when I was 8 years old because I felt like I was a burden on my mother, who was like struggling a lot financially. She was working, and you know, she was stressed out financially. And so I thought, I'm not going to be a burden. I'm going to work for what I have, and I'm going to save up for what I have. And so I bought my first car. I bought my first laptop. I paid for my own college. You know, of course she says like, you know what, she did, Mom, you did your best. Like, I totally get it. I'm so grateful. But there's just a lot of necessities and needs and desires that wasn't fulfilled because my dad wasn't there. And so that's totally not your fault. But I didn't want to like stress you out, Mom. So I did the best that I could to be independent, to not be a burden. But then realizing that I put a lot of pressure on myself to be perfect. I put a lot of pressure on myself to achieve. And honestly, that is part of the reason that God was like, sell everything and follow me. And he asked me to do things that were just crazy. Like, I've visited over 20 countries, praying over thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and like being confronted with whatever fears that I had. Fear of intimidation, fear of lack, fear of judgment, fear of everything. And it was hard, and it still is hard. Like I told you, like confronting like flight attendants, like 5 or 6 of them were my mother's age. and just not being afraid to voice my opinion. And I told them, look, I'm tired of being dismissed because I look like a young Asian woman. I feel that a lot of times I get dismissed because of people's previous experience of what an Asian woman is like. And I mean, I observed that too. I grew up with mostly Asian people, even in America. Is that my experience is that they're nice, but they're not bold. They're not often, like, they don't often tell people what's on their mind. They don't want to seem like an Asian bitch, basically. Or a angry Asian bitch. Oh, that should be a website. Okay, don't take it, because I might take it. Well, I'm not angry, but I feel like that's, it's like you're either this like super nice Asian nerd, right, who loves like anime or something, who's good at math and calculus and physics, and you're the model Asian citizen, like you have the perfect credit score, you have, $1 million in your saving account, or you're the hippie Asian. You're like complete opposite. You're the angry Asian woman comedian who like is just sleeping with homeless people. Who's that comedian? She's so funny. I love her though. Or, you're that angry dyke. I just said it, yeah. Or with tattoos. But it's like it seems like there's not people who are like in between, who are just like, I'm not saying like, who look like the nice Asian nerd and is speaking up. And I don't see that a lot, right? There's just so many stereotypes. And I feel like yesterday, so I met this girl in line. She's from Pennsylvania. And she was like, oh my god, like the Caucasian stewardess, she's white too. The white stewardess were so mean to the Koreans. And I was like, yeah, I can't believe you noticed that too. She's like, yeah, she would just say things that like Koreans don't understand. Like she would just say like, do you want noodle or chicken sandwich? And I was like, yeah, that's true. And it's like, I shared like my little story with the flight attendants with the guy next to me on my left. He was Korean. He was also a Christian brother. But he was voicing to me how he has a lot of worries because he's almost 50 and he feels like people in Korea, like after 50, you just go downhill. And I was like, that's not true. Like, your life is just beginning. Like, don't think that way. So I shared that story with him. I wrote it out and I let him read it, and he's like, I feel that way too because I have to fly to America and Europe for work, and I often notice that like people would talk to me, a certain way because I'm Asian, and that's just like, oh my gosh, that's just like so sad to me because I see that, and I see that there's like a disrespect of Asians because oftentimes Asians don't speak up for themselves, or because the culture it's like a Confucian culture, like a belief that, hey, you keep the peace, you don't speak up, as long as you're not hurting other people, like you're doing okay, like as long as your words are not offending other people, like and it just gets worse if you're Christian, if you grow up in the Christian church, because there is a culture of you respect your elders. If they're older than you, you respect them and you have to hear them out, and you can't speak up for yourself and you can't speak back. So you got Confucian culture and you got freaking Asian culture. Oh no, sorry. Yeah. No, you got like Asian culture and you got church culture. And you've got, hey, like respect your elders, which is technically It's not. It says honor your mother and father, but it doesn't really say like, oh, just because they're older, you respect them. No. Like Jesus talks so much about speaking your truth and like, he said he he disrespected his mother, like she was looking for him, and she's like, who is my mother or father? Like the people who do God's will, and he said that like right in front of her. And so that's offensive. Like if I was a mother, I'd be like, yo, dude, what the heck, man? Stop disrespecting your own mother. But what he said is true, because he's like, you're not my mom if you're not like following God. Like you can't be like, you own me. Basically what he was saying, he's like I don't know what he was doing. He was in the temple debating with some people. He's probably like 5 years old and talking to these like 35-year-olds, right? And he's probably like having these deep discussions with like these older people, which is a lot of times what I do. But I bet he was just like, dude, like you don't freaking own me. Like you gave birth to me, Maria, but you don't own me. And that's, or owe you. I don't owe you. And that is a lot of struggles with the kids I talk to, is like they feel like they have to submit to their parents because, you know what, like you're helping me financially, I'm living under your house, but parents, you do not own your sons and daughters. Their life is not yours. You didn't give them the breath in their lungs, man. God did that. I don't know how it feels to be a mother. I'm not a mother, but I have a lot of spiritual children, and what I've learned in training and teaching and coaching people is that I don't own them. I might see like a prophetic word and a vision for someone, and I might tell them, but I cannot control them. I cannot tell them what to do. At the end of the day, okay, it's a word from God. Okay, you run with it. You take that. But it's not my job to say when and where and how. You're the one who gets to decide, this is my life, this is how I want to live it. And yeah, that's it. This is the mother and daughter chat, and I hope that this helped you. And I feel like if you haven't spoken up in your relationship with your parents, please do that. And they might faint, they might do their thing, they might get angry and upset and cry, but maybe they should do that. Maybe they're suppressing what they're feeling, but let it out, and you deserve to be heard. I don't care if you start making videos or you just start talking to strangers about it. I talk to strangers every single day, and the more I talk, the more they talk, and the more people realize I'm not alone. I'm not freaking alone in this, and I'm tired of suppressing my emotions and my heart, and I'm going to speak up. That means every day, like, if every time I see my mom I have to say something and I have to voice my opinion, then I will do it. And as I do that, that fear comes off time and time and time again. Every time you speak up, that fear comes off. I've had to do that so much on my trip, like just do things that I'm like, oh my god, like, I remember one time in South Africa, like, so I was like raising funds and stuff, and funds were low, and well, like, and God would just say, hey, ask for a discount, and I would get it, or God would say, ask for a donation, and I would get it, and but there were other times I'm like, no, God, I'm just gonna trust you, But he would say, well, trusting me is asking. And so many times, like, even ministry, like, ministers are like, well, no, I'm just gonna wait for God. I'm just gonna, wait till people are inspired to give. Well, actually, that's a mindset of lack, because you don't feel like you're worthy enough to receive and to ask. And, yes, some people do receive things by, like, when people are inspired to give, but because of my background of growing up and feeling like a burden, I was afraid to ask for help. I never asked my mom for financial help. And, through ministry, he's taught me boldness. He's taught me, like, there are times, like, I prophesy over someone and God's like, ask for a donation. And I will. And the more I ask, it's been like a year and a half. The more I ask, the more I feel that fear breaking off. Like, every single time I do it, I'm saying to myself, no, I'm worthy. I'm not afraid of rejection. I'm not going to be afraid of judgment. I'm going to ask because I'm worthy. And I'm not going to be afraid of what you think, right? And I was thinking, like, if I'm not afraid to ask for donations, I'm not going to be afraid when I produce and direct a film and I have to present it to people, investors. If I can do that, I can do that. If you can ask in the small, it says, don't despise small beginnings. It talks about how, like, if God can put you in charge of little, he'll give you charge over a lot, right? Is that if you're not gonna feel like you're worthy of freaking, like, just doing something small like ministry, or, like, that's not small actually, okay, like raising funds, you're not gonna be afraid of when you have a multi-million-dollar movie and you have to get investors to invest in you. You gotta feel like you're worthy of it. You gotta feel like my story matters and what I produce is good. Oh great, I don't know if froze. Anyways, so that's my point. Anyways, my website, RebeccaLeon.com, and feel free consider giving to my ministry, and I really appreciate your support as I continue to share Jesus with the world, share my heart with you, bring people to Jesus, and bring the lost sheep home. Thanks again. Bye.